communities have been working together and solving community problems of combining their resources, whether it be, you know, delivering water, sewer services, police and fire, and efforts, combinations thereof. So there again, you know, going back to the proposal to Google, I think we can demonstrate that we can work together as a region, and that we can help deploy the outlay of the fiber optic lines, because that's the critical component that they're looking for. If we're chosen, they need to be able to install this very quickly. And so that's part of the convincing piece that we have to make. So to say that we're working together as a unified group, and that there won't be any shortcomings or bureaucratic red tape that would inhibit such a deployment of this project. So again, that's the advantage I think that we bring, and hopefully that will be a cut above any other community that's competing for this project.
What do you say to people who would say, you know, I like the service I have, I'm okay with it, you know, I don't know about gigabytes and all that other stuff, I just know how to get online and do what I have to do. How significant can this be to change their lives and the way they do business?
This is kind of game changing. I mean, it's a completely new type of service that none of us could even dream of having. Businesses, entrepreneurs, they can all take advantage of this and move forward. It may not, for a person like me, I'm more of that type. I don't know what I would do with such fast internet. But other people who are much smarter than I am that do know, that are creative and can come up with new uses, that's something we can all take advantage of. And if we're doing that in mid-Michigan, in the greater Lansing region, that's just one small piece of this transition that we're going through into a very great place that we are becoming, that we are now, and that we're moving to be. It's very exciting stuff.
I'm going to jump in on that one just for a moment, because my father was one of those folks, and I've told this story to you guys before, who said, I'm 72 years old, what would this matter to me? You know, I don't use the internet for that much, and why would I care if I have a gigabit of speed? And I talk to people all the time who watch Hulu. We're moving toward socially, we're connecting on the internet, we're watching TV on the internet, we're downloading videos, we're getting photographs. And I said, when your grandkids come over and they start playing their real-time strategy games that suck a lot of bandwidth, and then
that's the real test, isn't it?
It really is, because he gets so frustrated because they're in one room playing on the computer, and he's in the next room, and he can't get where he wants to go on the computer, or it takes forever to load. You can't download a file. You sit there and look at the little button, you know, spinning, or the hourglass filling, and nothing's happening. It's very frustrating to him. And so I think a lot of people who may not be so tech savvy would relate to those type of issues. Or you're watching Hulu. I personally love to watch Cougar Town. So when my kids are on, seriously, when my kids are on, and I have the Xbox is sucking bandwidth, I've got the computer sucking bandwidth, my laptop, and I'm trying to watch that Cougar Town episode, and it's like breaks right in the middle of it. And then I have to sit there and wait for it to buffer. You know, I have a limited amount of time in my day. I don't watch that much TV, but if I want to squeeze in a half an hour,
well, at least you have quality.
I want to get it over.
Put at the top of her list.
Yes.
You've done extremely well even before this. How much easier would it have made for you to be an entrepreneur and to grow your business had this been available to you?
Well, certainly, you know, entrepreneurs will be interested in this area, because it's if we do get this type of infrastructure from Google, this is kind of the genesis and the basis of the tech industry and the information technology industry. You can never have too much bandwidth, you know, and you know, and you look at areas where, you know, Silicon Valley in California, they have more capacity in that area than nearly anywhere else. And same thing with Chicago. Chicago's a major hub. Well, that's where the data center companies go. That's where companies like Liquid Web want to be. And they have more competitive advantage in those areas because they have massive capacity. And so that capacity, if we have more capacity, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in some respects. It's much the same reason why Detroit became the center of the auto industry. It's because the engineers that worked at Ford went and worked for Chrysler, and then they figured out something new, and then they worked for GM. And then that interplay between technology entities became a natural synergistic environment for the auto industry, and hence we've had that benefit for many years. The key is if we have that capacity in this area, we've already got a substantial technology company infrastructure. We've got companies like TechSmith, AreaLink, BSNA Software, Surcon, ACD, and Liquid Web. And so that's a fairly substantial IT infrastructure already. And so we certainly think for us, and for us who are in this business already, there's this little phrase everybody says: do they get it or do they not get it? What you got to have in order to attract the new entrepreneur. The information highway is like the highways of yesterday. The railroads are fiber, and the highways are now fiber. Everybody is moving data rather than getting on a plane. They're Skyping or doing video conferences. And one application we have, we provide services to a number of hospitals, and they transmit radiology images between these hospitals. Really? Yeah. And so if a person has a car accident in Eaton Rapids, but the person who checks images has to get in the car and drive to Eaton Rapids, he may live in Lansing. He instead, they have people in Ingham Regional Hospital who can take a look at the images as soon as they're put into the MRI scanner down in Eaton Rapids in a matter of minutes. Well, that makes a big difference from a life-saving standpoint. They don't have to drive for a half an hour to get to Eaton Rapids to take a look at those images. So those networks, particularly in the medical industry, are in a very booming type of future, and especially with medical records going online as well. Medical records, increasingly we find out that imaging is a fundamental basic. If you can see something inside of somebody, it's far easier to diagnose something. And so, the future of networks and the medical industry is going to be in imaging, and we need to cement that type of lead that we already have in this area.
Would some say, though, by giving this type of technology to a regional group, that it would be giving more of an advantage to that group, and it would be unfair to other communities, or is this something that would be just kind of put you a step ahead?
Well, I think it'll put us a step ahead. And whether, I live here, so if I have an unfair advantage, I think that'd be a great idea compared to, somewhere else. And
that brings up a good point, though, too. This has to be part of a larger conversation. I mean, we lag woefully behind the rest of the developed world in terms of bandwidth. And that, like you were saying earlier, we invented the internet. It's our idea. And if we're lagging behind, there's something wrong with that. So we do need to continue this forward. Even if our community is not successful in getting Google out of their charity to put $500 million worth of fiber here, we need to start thinking about the future and thinking, what do we need to get there? I think this is part of it, and I think we need to continue having that conversation regardless.
And why has there been such a lag in getting to where we should be?
Some would blame it on the businesses and the powers that be. The issue is, if you're, say, a Comcast or a company that provides internet service right now, you have your real incentive to make sure that the data networks that you've laid are getting used. And companies like Comcast have taken a lot of time and put a lot of money into actually laying the copper lines. That's how we get cable internet. So by changing the format, they're kind of afraid of that. They're like, oh no, we don't, this is our business model, you're messing it up. If you've got a new type of network that we would have to work on, nobody's going to use our network that we built anymore. The neat thing about that, though, what Google's doing here, it's called open access. So Google would build the network, they would lay the highway, and they would put an on-ramp that everybody can access, is essentially what they're going to do. Everybody, Comcast could get on the highway, everybody else. And sticking with that metaphor too, that there allows the creativity to explore. Then, you build the highways, then companies come up with things like hybrid cars and hydrogen cars and these and that. So it really allows for that greater collaboration. It's exciting stuff. Mm-hmm.